in California, there is a ballot measure to get the minimum wage up to $18. That would make a massive difference for people. In fact, you're gonna help put that on the ballot in a second. And you know how much money you're gonna move into workers' pockets if you help to do this? $62.4 billion. Now, why is that? Because the extra wages that California workers would get in the next 2 years from this one ballot measure is no joke. It's actually $62 billion. So, and you can move that actually fairly easily. So I'm gonna show you how you can do that in a second. Why do I say 2 years? Well, this was supposed to be on the 2022 ballot in California. It's slated to pass really easily because people are in favor of higher wages for themselves. Of course, and that's why the Republican parties that said against it, but we're worried that Democratic leaders like Gavin Newsom might also be against it, and that's the point where you come into play in a second. But Gavin Newsom could put it on the ballot right away in 2022, and it got over 1 million signatures. It only needed about 660,000 signatures, and it got way past that. But because of a bureaucratic snafu, they're saying, no, it's gonna go on the 2024 ballot because corporate interests would like to keep that extra $62 billion and not give it to their workers. So how are you gonna change that? First, I want you to know one other fact about this. The people who will move up from $15 to $18 in California will get a wage increase of $6,240 every single year. So you wanna give people a $6,000 raise? Especially if you live in California, you're gonna give it to yourself. Well, we got a petition to make that happen, okay? So it's at tyt.com/petitions/California as in CA minimum wage. Okay, but you can just go to tyt.com/petitions and you'll see it there. It's really easy, and we'll have the URL down below. Now, if a lot of people sign this petition, is it possible to move Gavin Newsom into supporting the petition? Of course, okay. And I'm gonna show you how obvious it is for Gavin Newsom right now. New polling conducted this week shows that more than 2/3 of California voters support the measure. Well, if 2/3 support the measure, this is a no-brainer, right? And 3 in 4 voters, that's 75% of voters, support Governor Newsom placing the measure directly on the November ballot, which he can do right away. He has the authority to do that. So this is an easy fix. Governor Gavin Newsom's thinking of running for president. He's positioning himself as someone who cares about progressive issues and the average working person, and he can get them a $6,000 raise with just a stroke of a pen. So far, his office says, no, we're not going to do it. Why? That doesn't make any sense. Unless, of course, business interests are affecting Gavin Newsom and his fundraising are. Well, look, he has a chance to prove it either way. Either he can get 75% of California voters to go, yeah, Gavin Newsom, awesome, I love the raise that you helped me get, right? Or he could take a deeply unpopular position. There's only one reason you would take a deeply unpopular position, and that's the money. Okay, so now, guys, enough of you sign that petition, and there will be a world of pressure on him. And we're gonna try to make sure that there's a world of pressure on him so we can get you that raise. And imagine if we win, if all of us together win, you sign that petition and you're part of that change. Then you get to feel great. I know I'm gonna feel great about it. Oh my God, I got people a $6,000 raise. We moved $62 billion from corporate pockets into the pockets of hardworking Americans working really hard jobs. Okay, so I wanna give you guys a sense of how much our wages are not keeping up, not just with inflation today, but inflation historically and productivity in the country. We've told you before, if the minimum wage had kept up with productivity in America, right now it'd be at about $24 an hour. Not 15, not 18, not the current federal minimum wage, which is $7.25. It would be at $24. Okay, so but these are interesting examples that came out today, actually, in the news. So they compared how much it costs to go to the movies in the 1960s compared to the movies, go to the movies today. And then you see that here. They did this in a couple of categories. Once you adjust for inflation, the price for the tickets, the popcorn, etc. for movies would have been $34.15. But right now, it's a $68.73. Now, why does that make a difference? Because if you're a working family in America, it now, adjusted for inflation, costs you twice as much to go to the movies. It's so hard to do anything. Your wages are lower and all the other prices are higher. Now, if you want to go to Disneyland in 1960, it cost, again, the parking lot, Disneyland, all the things that are associated with it cost, again, adjusted for inflation, $359.96. Now it costs $1,055, okay? So that is 2.5 times what it costs. Look, for the average family, and this one is conservative because now in the old days, families had only one breadwinner. Now they have 2 breadwinners and they still can't keep up. For the average family to just go to a baseball game or to a movie or to Disneyland, look at the hours of work required to attend those family outings. So if you want to go to Disneyland, for example, you have to work almost 100% more, twice as many hours to be able to just take one nice day with your family, okay? Now, if you're working minimum wage, let me show you those numbers. And remember, Disneyland in a couple of different places, but obviously the main theme park here is here in California. Our own workers can't afford the attraction that people come from all over the world to see. Now, if you're at minimum wage, it's at 299%. That means you have to work 3 times as many hours, or maybe sometimes 3 times as many jobs to be able to afford what you afforded back in 1960 today. So this is among the many, many reasons why we need a much higher minimum wage. California can lead the way and Gavin Newsom can do it. Sign the petition at tyt.com/petitions and make a difference. And let's get Governor Newsom to put this on the ballot. He could do it right now if we create enough pressure. David, what are your thoughts?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I'm so glad that you highlighted this story because again, it does underscore how much wages have sort of slowed down through the years and how much less buying power we have. But there's the other side about this is also, Cenk, that if you look at sort of Hollywood, you look at baseball. I mean, baseball used to be the national pastime. Now you could argue that Major League Baseball has become not just the national pastime, but the national pastime of greed because the cost from some of these teams and some of the leagues, they're also somewhat responsible for how explosive the costs have gone up. So it's a combination both of, yes, working class wages have not kept up, but also I think there's a greed that has seeped into America across so much, not just sort of corporate America, but also Major League Baseball is just as corporate as anything else. The same thing with Hollywood movie studios. It is obscene how much a sport like baseball is trying to make money largely from television and advertising rates, how much they're trying to essentially squeeze even more money out of fans' pockets. And as a result, I think it's bad for the sport, it's bad for Hollywood, it's bad for the movies, it's bad for sports fans. When you are cutting off such a large segment of society, you are sacrificing your future in terms of having the next audience that's actually gonna come to your games or come to your movies.
And final thing, guys, is that you hear Republicans saying this all the time, but you also hear mainstream media, cable news pundits, and corporate Democrats saying that the wages are too high, that they're driving up inflation, and that the Federal Reserve is gonna take action to make sure that wages don't go any higher. How come they never talk about all of the products and services and goods going up way higher? Are they trying to stop that? Are they trying to stop the corporate profits that have led to this inflation? No, the only thing they're trying to stop is your wages from going up higher. The good news is in California, you can do ballot measures. And by the way, in a lot of states, you can do ballot measures. And every state that has proposed a higher minimum wage as a ballot measure has passed it. Every single one, it doesn't matter how red they are, Missouri, Arkansas, Florida, they've all passed it and easily. This will pass in California. It should pass right now. And honestly, Governor Newsom has no excuse not to put it on the ballot immediately.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.